Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Edna Harvey, Harvey's New Eyes. Let's continue. We're going through this game, trying to speedrun it, trying to get all the
The
achievements.
door was
It really highlights um, just how much time you would
well, who knew
spend.
a little just stay with. Hey, stop!
It really highlights just how much time you would have spent playing this game a second time to get all the achievements, to get back to see the other endings, just because the game didn't force me into a save. That one decision would have saved me so much time. Um, if I
Hey,
was
come
a
back!
different kind of content creator that actually edited, undoubtedly it would have been smarter for me to have ended the
Give
game
up,
with one ending,
especially.
then realized I didn't have a save file, then played the game off screen for all the other achievements, and then come back once I was at the ending a second time. But that
Hey,
certainly
come
isn't
back!
going to show the course of the events as they actually happened. Hmm. See, that puzzle is just
Triumphantly, Lilli
such a
climbed a
non
ladder.
um,
She had finally found a way to get into the
that
institution.
really is a non puzzle there, that you just have to go all the way to the left so
Not
you can
so
get the
fast.
current. Okay. And so the next one is this quick time event, and instead of clicking the X, you're supposed to hit X and then click on the ledge at the same time, like 15 times. That's 3, maybe 3 there. We'll give one extra 4. So I'm pressing X on the keyboard and clicking on the ledge, like it was some kind of quick time event on a keyboard instead of a quick time event on a controller, which this game definitely could be made to be playable on a controller. I don't think it actually does have controller support. Um, I'm losing count here. We'll just do it a bunch of times and hope. I probably should have saved again, but whatever. We're close enough. No, she has only 3 fingers too. That is something I totally did not even see in the first playthrough, which highlights just how quickly you can lose attention on just how oddly animated these characters are. Uh, but yeah, this is kind of a prime example of a game that is the reason there are touchpads on the Steam Deck as a portable gaming console for PC games, is that there's just a long history of mouse and keyboard slash just mouse or just keyboard games, mostly mouse and keyboard, some point and clicks, even point and clicks that do 90% of their gameplay um, during with the mouse still need the escape button or save buttons, save keys, load keys. But there is no fixing that either. Like, unless controller support can just be retroactively figured out in some system that works in every possible game, in every possible scenario. Best you can do is have a controller emulate the mouse, the A button being the left click, B button being the right click. Even that works for most games. See, the weirdness here too is we're doing this achievement, but it doesn't actually say you've gotten it until you take the next step, which the next step is to um, click on the X and eat it. Like, and see, it kind of looks as much like a button as it does like an X. It probably should have been more distinctly just an X keyboard key instead of an X circle, because an X circle, sure, that's on an Xbox controller. You'll have an X circle, but you won't have that on a PlayStation controller or anything like that. So she eats it, and by her eating it, then you get the achievement. So it really is just a joke.
Briefly distracted by a floating energy smartie, Lilli was able to reach the ledge. Not a moment too soon as the ladder crashed down behind her, dragging the phantom into the pit with it.
No!
Fourth wall breaking jokes, though, don't really
Fortified by the
benefit
energy smartie, Lilli
this
was
game.
able to pull herself up on the ledge. Now her search for Edna could continue.
Wow. I noticed when she climbed up that was an odd static animation, but what is even odder is because they have her as a 10-year-old little girl with a fairly short skirt because they want to show knees, but also have high socks. That animation somehow ended up with them also just having a small part on that previous screen showing her underwear being green, which, yeah, okay, that's weird, for sure. And there's really not a lot to say about that. That it's just perhaps in drawing your character or drawing specific parts of your characters, you rethink that. But yeah, and green is a weird choice anyways, because you can see every other part of her outfit is black and white, like you would assume a kind of Catholic convent uniform would be.
The idea was
We'll now try to rush through the rest of this as quickly as possible. Okay.
Lilli had inadvertently. It was as hopefully the.
But water, don't you? You must just see your.
Okay. So here's the next thing we need to do, where we just need to shock ourselves a bunch. This is a pretty great place to do this. You could see the player thinking that you do just have to shock her out of it, and that it might be the only argument for there being an achievement that takes 15 times. This is still a lot of dialogue, though. When the zap alone should have been enough. Or maybe the zap and then and a hint popping up might be it. Alright, so we got that achievement, which leaves us in just focusing in on the coffee achievement, the pizza achievement, and then the rest of these are kind of later on. Although we may get to them very fast. I feel like in the first game there was a puzzle around the TV, wasn't there?
Welcome, right? What? Hello? Hello?
Then all the food being in the refrigerator here clearly shows a laziness on the part of the game developer, or them just running out of time, if you want to call it that.
What? Don't you just see your...
I can't do that yet. But yeah, well, I'll take back saying laziness. I don't know what was in their head, but obviously there would have been a better way to do 4 different pieces of key items, in that they wouldn't have just all been in the same location. So if we were to go this way, I don't think I can talk to Druggle.
Yeah. Drug. Where we? Oh, do you? But you're she and I want you. Drug. No, if she just she.
Yeah.
Drug. Oh, for yeah, but upon
It's
drug. Yeah.
And see, I don't think you actually get to skip.
And don't forget drug.
I don't think you can skip any of the pizza puzzle, because I don't know what at one point that would happen.
Drug, and bravo. Since does that no?
I'm not sure I really need to have that.
Hello, you're... You know...
Alright. Yeah, I don't think you can individually talk to any of the characters until later. And so we can skip having to break the next element, but let's see. You can't pick up the knitting needle until you can use sharp objects. So, well, I can use the green pillow on the green urinal.
What do you have left? You go ahead.
That's fine. We can go ahead and use the starch on the scarf.
She had it.
Can't do that quite yet. Alright. You can't get the pizza. You can't pick up Harvey. And having to do it 3 times does kind of imply, again, where she might get angry.
Surprised to see.
Yeah.
You won't escape.
It's a little too quick, though, to run into the phantasm again, particularly since you know he's just not that interested. He's not interested in fighting you after
Lilli didn't
the
want
fact.
One feather would be just like
after this encounter, and you've just kind of utterly defeated him.
Stop.
So it is weird to very quickly see him
Stop that.
and then see him again and then see him a 3rd time, and he not even being a challenge the 3rd time.
Well, you can't use didn't that.
See, I think we just need to find the pixel for the iron bars, which is like way up here.
Hey, you. Look what I just did.
Then we take the thorn out of him.
play. Let
This demon had, it seemed that Lilli returned.
Alright. And so now we can use sharp objects. And remember, we already had a sharp object in our inventory. So they've broken their own logic in that they couldn't think of a way for you to break playing with sharp objects in here, which would have been fairly easy to do. There could have been a broken leg or a sharp object in the wall, just or in the gate around here. There could have even been a sharp object that is in him to start with, and then you could have a reoccurring gag where
That's good. Keep not.
we cannot actually pull Harvey, can we?
You must.
Nope. So we can't go back into the dream world. So this is a point where we can't enter either. Yeah. Yeah, I think the best way what you would have done it is he would have fallen when the ladder collapsed. There would have been a bloody sharp objects from the ladder, a piece of the ladder here. You would have then grabbed it after you broke the rule that you can not play with sharp objects, and then you would have stabbed him in the eye. And honestly, just grabbing it probably should do a cutscene to stab him in the eye, because there's no real animation that they want to show there. It's just a couple of frames at the beginning, and then this. And you
Lilli
have this
fallen
weird...
to air. The phantom's grip was tight.
It's a weird situation still, because you've gone from Dr. Marcel being the bad guy to the Phantom, and it just doesn't... There's just not enough time to have two bad guys, as it were. Like, it really should have been Dr. Marcel is the Phantom, but then Dr. Marcel is in the wheelchair, so then the Phantom should be probably one of the orderlies working for Dr. Marcel. And here we're going for the achievement of drinking coffee, which this is still way, way too long of a way to do it, but I'm trying my very best to rush through it. Like, having to do this 15 times is ridiculous. Now, you notice that he goes from this, and then it fades to white, and then it goes to that, and it fades to white, and then it goes back to that, and it fades to white. That's how it mostly plays out. But if I click really, really fast to skip it, you'll see that it actually doesn't fade out the Harvey doll quite fast enough, so he shows up a little quicker. No, it doesn't. It's not that it fades it in faster. It doesn't fade out the other part. Regardless to say, even if I'm saying it wrong, the point is, trying to click and skip forward makes the whole experience bug out a little bit, but not to any significant portion. This is just insanity, though. Like, nobody gave two thoughts to what it would be like to actually play this a second time. And honestly, I can't 100% disagree with the idea of just churning out point-and-click adventure games. Like, even today, if you were to form a company and churn out point-and-click adventure games, you would really not have any competition. Like the Broken Sword creators, at best, are going to make one game every 4 years. Daedalic's not publishing or making point-and-click adventure games, so you're really only competing against other very small independent solo developers. I would hope that if a company decided to do that, or a person decided to do that, they would learn from the mistakes of previous point-and-click adventure games and not end up with ridiculous time wasting or insane moon logic. Arguably, the problem with all point-and-click adventure games is that they do fall into moon logic so easily that it's almost impossible to not have that happen, where there's some kind of crazy puzzle that's solved only if you have a walkthrough in front of you. Although I will say this game really didn't have any kind of crazy moon logic in it. It just wastes your time otherwise. Even if you're not trying to get the achievements, even if you just wanted the different endings and didn't save, it's gonna take way too much time. But oops, didn't need to do that. We got the achievement. It just was a little slow to pop up. I definitely would more prefer better polished point-and-click adventure games. Notice there is no bridge here at this point. And honestly, maybe a little bit more dramatic point-and-click adventure games. Like, people haven't really tried those as much recently.
The door.
So, yeah, if you did have a bit of a more dramatic point-and-click adventure game that requires better writing and less of an attempt at comedy. You also have a weird situation here where
Lilli knew that, but as long as she had enough.
You definitely have this weird situation where there's not as much of a chance of it being poorly written if I was playing this in the original German. Like, I definitely feel like if I was fully fluent in German and playing the Daedalic games in German, there's probably a much better experience. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the audience of Daedalic games is German native speakers. Native German speakers.
What do you have there? No matter what, just give it. Ah, what? And just here, you.
Yeah. Up we go now to this one. Actually, can we do this with the can opener?
Oh dear, Lilli, but for.
I wonder if the knitting needle would have put holes in the sheet to make it a ghost sheet also. Now, I forget what I even get by giving this guy.
Hello, Lilli.
Or is it just regular? I don't want to. Ever since and before, maybe there, and even it so. How does that mean? Can I just spread the urge, just like? But I'm something.
Alright, so he won't let me play a fire, which means I can't give the candle to him. Apparently, I think I get his yellow scarf from that.
I'm just the responsible. I've made. I can. I should. Toodaloo. Hey ho.
Lilli was soon.
And at the end of the game, the joke is you see him actually flying instead of just jumping to his death. Silk scarf on the lantern.
Lilli had often wished to go. It was even.
Then I feel like now we can put the starch on
Lilli
this.
knew that you wouldn't hurt.
You can't use the
Well,
starch until
now
then.
Lil-
Then that gets to this part. And yeah. I think at this point you can just do this.
Yikes! How sweet! Finally, you have Dr. Mars. Isn't there curse him? Deprived dragon? Oh come on! I've done. I forgot. Although when
Skip through all of this.
Oh man! Can't you help? Great. The doctor is forced. No idea, but I'm never. Maybe you could wait.
What's funny is I said I can help, and I guess that wasn't a lie at that point. Alright. So there was an achievement to come back to this and listen to her singing.
I'm knitting for the doctor. It will do me good. I'm knitting for the doctor. Nom, 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 nom,
So yeah, not much of a song there, but that is getting us where we need to go. Blue, yellow. I think we're missing red.
What do you have there? Let me. You go ahead. What do you have there? Let me. You go ahead.
Okay. So, red, red, red. Where do we get red? Do we get red over here? Oh, yes, we do. We get this red curtain. Just in the background. Easy to overlook. That clearly should have been, like, here. Just a red curtain in the middle of the wall. And then probably getting rid of the red curtain over there. Alright, so let's put that there.
What do you have there?
And it does feel like we're going to rush
Go ahead.
through all of this. So we may very well be done with the game and all the achievements. Alright, the next dangerous achievement is this pizza time. As far as I can tell, the achievement guide I'm following says that you have to do the right combination first, otherwise it won't unlock. So, I'm just going to cheat it and read the answer to begin with. So, red bananas.
How about that? Red bananas.
Yellow blueberries.
How about that? Yellow blueberries.
Green tomatoes.
How about that? Green tomatoes.
And blue broccoli.
How about that? Blue broccoli.
And see, the achievement is colored in with the right colors once you get the achievement, but it's just gray before you get the achievement. So if the solution was in the thumbnail of the achievement, no, it's not.
Red bananas.
Let's see, red bananas.
Yellow blueberries.
Green tomatoes.
Green tomatoes.
The way I'm having to click is changing somewhat too, because it was red bananas, then I had pizza selected, and then click the next thing. And then I have to click on the item and then place it.
Blue broccoli.
So everybody's happy with that. And that was the first input. And we will deliver the pizza and hope to get that achievement. It almost feels like with the phrase pizza time, the idea would have been to solve the pizza puzzle in a certain amount of time.
Superb, superb.
But nope, that's not really what the achievement guide says.
Peter's satisfied too.
In which we
Let's just skip all of this. And this is where we get into the fantasy without being brainwashed.
Lilli.
You can. This is
Lilli.
Alright.
Wait. It's just and
That's
what?
And then you have
now
again fourth wall breaking
but got the
elements and jokes.
Only it's what?
I kept expecting Lilli to be depicted as a different character also. That she'd eventually look like a barbarian queen. But no.
And
Because you're definitely messing up on the ability to
but it's much the mystery because it's and as long if you have
like you definitely could have set yourself up for a reoccurring joke in a sequel where she becomes the barbarian queen a second time.
you think Rob you found on the other no one seen
Let's see. Get the ball.
Hello, you. I'll don't you Lilli. She but
Skip all of this dialogue.
her aunt was.
Let's see.
Are you working those blood? You fuck me.
Relax, that's
There doesn't, and then I'll wait up.
And this one we just yawn until he falls asleep. And then get it. Then we'll make this one fall asleep.
Don't stand you.
And logically, it doesn't even make sense that you know you want to make them fall asleep because you don't see the items that they're holding. Yep. So the fact that you don't see the items they're holding, then you don't realize that
You try putting roll. Done the law, but the press.
and put the ball.
Good.
the chocolate with his
And so we start the war. And this is the point where you break the mental
noise is too old.
you break the mental barrier of
Finally, the group stormed the battlefield. with
even here you could have drawn her as a barbarian
They were
queen
led by Lilli,
instead of just looking
who
like
furiously
Lilli.
swung her berserker sword in circles. And as the dice rolled in the institution,
And so at this
so
point
did
she
the heads of
defeats
goblins and
the
hawk
goblins,
It
which will
seems
just
it
look
is
like
a good
potatoes.
idea to occasionally vent your rage. It was a short battle. The goblins
Defeating
were
the
powerless
goblins
against the fury
stops the
unleashed
mental
by the
blocks
group.
that she
The
had
plans of
before the
Goblin King
brainwashing
were
that was keeping her from realizing how much she killed, how she either accidentally or intentionally killed all of the other students at the convent.
Was a terrible mistake.
Lilligrim was still wondering what he meant when she heard an ominous crack above her.
And this definitely should have been a way more important scene, because something that there should have been a break in action after the success of solving the puzzle to have some following action, then to have the highest rise of action in this cutscene, or rise of excitement, if not actual action.
This valley is cursed. I heard
And
that
even in
way
this
ago.
cutscene, you have the problem of Lilli not talking. And I guess that is a picture of every single kid she killed.
Do we get XPs now?
Lilli had seen the truth.
Yeah, the
I'm
narrator
sure
should
you
have
can
come
imagine
back
how she felt.
earlier,
You can't? Oh,
fade to
well,
black,
who knows
then
what really goes on in the
show the
mind of a
revelation. If anything, this scene is trying to make her seem like she's not so crazy as you might have thought.
Hello?
But also, you could take it
Are you okay?
that she is as crazy as you thought, depending on what you actually
Am
thought.
I crazy, or did it just get colder in here?
Okay. Did that let me get angry now? So, as far as achievements and speedrunning all of this, the next two, Fight Club and Droggle Jug, are right in the same room, which, if anything, it highlights that they were running out of ideas with achievements and just trying to get a specific number, which if you can't think of a good reason to have an achievement, the number should be 0.
Druggle Jug?
Right.
Druggle
So
Jug?
15 times we have to
Druggle
talk to Druggle Jug,
Druggle Jug?
and there might be 5 or 6 different takes of Druggle Jug.
Druggle Jug?
Hmm.
Druggle Jug? Druggle Jug. Druggle Jug. Druggle Jug?
And so that achievement's fairly quickly. Then you have to talk to Peter,
So I'm supposed to express. I
which
don't
at
actually
least
say
he
a whole-
talks, so
Couldn't been a Lilli. What?
so you actually have some conversation, but then we're gonna have to talk to Peter 15 times, spitting out bloody tooth.
You're right. I'll just. There. I don't want any.
So then the achievement now is just to punch him several more times. Which is kind of funny, but it's not really in the character of Lilli. Like, if Lilli is actively trying to inflict harm here, then the endings, some of the endings don't make as much sense, and one of the endings makes too much sense, but it also just counters the idea of her accidentally killing everybody else. Like, if the idea is that she wasn't allowed to get angry only after she got hypnotized, and she was getting angry in the first chapter before she was hypnotized, I guess maybe that makes some sense. There's definitely a real problem around the idea, though, of these Edna and Harvey games where retroactively you have to rethink and recontextualize the entire game because it's being told with an unreliable narrator. There we go, we got the Fight Club achievement. And thus because you have an unreliable narrator either in the actual narrator or in Lilli herself or Edna herself. Alright, so that leaves us with just the multiple endings, which are also achievements and loathing minigames, which we'll skip the last chess minigame to get to that. As far as I can figure, the reason why it was so easy to solve the last chess minigame, it took a lot of time, but it still was fairly easy. I assume I just had the do whatever you want ability enabled by default, and because I had it enabled by default, it allowed me to break whatever the minigame action was going to be otherwise. Like, if I had maybe all the restrictions enabled, I wouldn't have... Let's say I had the restriction of use sharp objects disabled. Maybe that means that I couldn't play the character that had sharp objects. And this off-screen key item is weird because we don't really see that anywhere else. And the owl whistle being brought back as a reference and nothing else is weird.
It sounded crazy now.
So she's integrated into her fantasies the RPG mental elements, which that's fine, it's all mental.
It was true. She'd opened the real gate during her trance. The path to the asylum's tower was now free. Somewhere in the dark uncertainty, there she would find her friend.
You know, there is
Not really thinking about it, Lilli took the stuffed rabbit with her. If she was going to enter Dr. Marcel's realm, she didn't want to do it alone, like she usually did.
Like, there is a re-release right now that came out of a pretty well forgotten Blade Runner video game, and the re-release is, from what I can tell, pretty awful and nobody likes it. But if you were to have instead made a new Blade Runner game,
Lilli had to
the whole concept around the Blade Runners is around do they think the same and act the same as regular humans? So if you were playing as a character that had to jump into the mind or the imagination of characters, that would have been an interesting twist on it, certainly.
on top of the clip, but
Of course, the first things first would have been to
Lilli shut. Suddenly, what's that?
Hey, if you tell him to I never.
Yeah. The first things first would have been just to have re-released the Blade Runner game that originally existed in a good fashion. I can't help but feel like the Phantom is actually Alfred And there was only one son.
Noteworthy, the termites and
the only thing to really do in this section is we were too timid to actually try the office door. We'll look at the office door.
Firmly locked. This had to be Dr. Lilli thought.
So we'll try the door once we get the keys off of him.
What's that? A ghost? Hey, listen. Alfred, it's really... I never got...
I kind of
have so much I
think
still want to tell you.
Alfred may have been killed by Edna in the first game. In the... Yeah.
You lousy, dirty toad. Because of you, I guessed you.
Yeah, that might have been the twist as to why Dr. Marcel hated Edna so much. But it may be a different twist too.
Lilli wanted to be very careful. Damn, it seemed that there was already a key in the keyhole on the other side of the door.
Alright. And this is pretty much a very pointless high hallway. Would have made more sense to simply have a cell door here in the first place.
Lilli! Oh, we were so...
Let's just skip through all this dialogue. Okay.
Lilli, you but what were they?
We need a needle. Where did we get the needle from? Here. Can we play with sharp objects? And then use that with that.
Perfect. Lilli now.
Use that with that.
Lilli, she knew, but maybe she may.
And then use that with that.
She often what did she was.
What do you do? Stop. You have to. I can hard. I'm my old self.
Harvey?
Come on, let's sit and fly. Just so go for it. Let's yippee.
Okay, and then let's make a save game, and I think we'll probably end up just making a save game and then saving again. Right. Restrictions are use sharp objects right now. So if I was to use this with this one,
You have to get us. I think I could shake.
with the new eyes, they're not even really spinning, so it's just a phrase.
Hey, Lilli, what's that? Some kind of fight?
Less talking, more fighting.
So I should be able to do this, but now when I use like Berserker Harvey and tell him to attack, he should change the rules and say no. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. So if there was some point where the Harvey judge cheated with this like red card or something, I don't know where. And I don't really care to find out.
Now it's your turn. Select one of your heart.
Yeah, I really don't care to find out how this Harvey might have cheated if I didn't have the do what you like function restriction enabled. Instead, we'll just skip.
You won! Yippee! No, it can't be, you damn rabbit. You were supposed to make sure she would stick to the rules. She can't just do whatever she wants.
Of course.
Quiet! But we need rules. Otherwise...
It might be that you just don't sew on Harvey's eyes at all, and you can get into the fight before you have Harvey's new eyes sewn on. Yeah, that might be like the way it would have gone too. So, but undoubtedly, it's very, very obvious that
Mother Superior's behavioral block had Lilli was mother, but Eve.
Thank you. I can hold it. Oh.
that's very, very obvious that there's a section of content there you can miss.
But what are you? Do you? I mean, but I think we could try. Come on, or do you?
Let's see what happens if we say no.
Too bad.
Alright, let's just go ahead and save and overwrite that save. And even though I've been making a lot of saves, you can see it would still take me about 5 minutes to get from this point back to this point to see how it would have cheated. Well, I guess maybe if I hadn't overwritten the save I just did, though, that wouldn't have been the case. I guess that's just another argument towards always making a new save.
Have you changed your mind?
Think it over, Lilli. Don't you want to try me first with everything else? Or do you really want to give me to Mother Superior?
What would happen if we tried this on Edna?
Harvey? Is it really you?
Because we kind of rushed through this.
Edna! Yeah, it's me. I'm my old self. No, even better.
Like, we've seen this line of dialogue, and I guess maybe this is a case where they are trying to tell you.
You shouldn't save the fart sounds until after dinner.
Well, I don't know if that's an improvement.
You haven't pulled it after dinner.
Oh, Harvey, you're really back to your old self.
Claro, clarissimo.
Yeah, I think I did try this.
Do you have a new hat?
Let's just
Since when we've had to
skip through this because we already have seen this dialogue.
Lilli, have you on? If you don't before
the bed.
Yeah. So I may have not tried to put him in the trash can.
Oh, Lilli. Look, an apple bucket.
Oh.
Nope, we had already done that, which means we probably had already done this. And then the only other one wouldn't be maybe the cell door.
How so? There wasn't even...
So yeah, there's nothing you can really do here.
Have you think it over? Don't you want to, or do you?
Yep.
Really?
So right at the end of this game, there's a section of content you can easily miss and just jump ahead. And then there's a point here where you should save, and
sure you want something to make up
it's not quite obvious enough when really it should just be a hard save at the end of the game to see the different endings, or it should have even just let you at the end of the seeing one ending potentially jump back and make a different decision.
If you carry on like this, I can imagine hiring you as a deputy someday.
Or I could hire you as a cosmonaut's assistant, which is even cooler than a deputy.
Whatever. Just please, cut us loose, fast. Then we'll figure it out.
I've already come up with a plan. I'm sure you know the story of the girl who ran away from Dr. Marcel's asylum long ago? The same girl that pushed him down the stairs that same night? Well, I never told you this, but that girl was me.
What a surprise.
Yeah, and that's why I know my way around here so well. Behind the cushion over there is the famous ventilation shaft that I used for my escape back then. We'll be free in no time
So,
at all. We'll have to get past Dr.
they're saying
Marcel's
that's
office
famous.
First, but, Lilli? Is something wrong? Come on, Lilli. Cut us loose. What's going on?
You're not going to do something stupid, are you?
See,
Lilli,
you get the
where are you
knife,
going?
and then you just don't have control of the game anymore. And then you're just into this cutscene where she's drawn somewhat differently and from an odd angle. And there's literally only Dr. Marcel. He has a scarf around his throat. I wouldn't have been surprised if he tried to cut his throat and there was some metal neck brace there that it deflected off of, and that was the bad ending twist.
Are you sure that's what you want to do? Excellent. I knew right away that you're dangerous. The other children, those were accidents. But now, you're here with a sharp knife, ready to...
And so the first time we got to this point, we just decided to embrace the psychotic tendencies and kill them. So let's go with the other option and put the knife down. And then we'll do contradict, which obviously that takes 4 clicks, so that's the good ending or the middle ending.
Probably once heard about her, but the girl that you know is nothing more than a figment of your imagination, an attempt to escape your friendless life at the convent. You think I'm lying, right? Because there's someone else who can also see Edna. Let me guess. A priest, perhaps? No. A policeman, right? The manifestation of a higher authority. When you thought that Edna was in danger, your subconscious invented him too, to legitimize defying Mother Superior's rules and helping your friends.
At a certain level,
ask her yourself. They're here.
It would make a nicer ending if Edna didn't just end up in a convent that was awful.
Wonderful. Finally, you see
And the fact that there are kind of 2 sort of bad endings to this game and maybe one good ending gets back to that whole didactic, we have to have bad endings.
Unfortunately, he's right, Lilli. Don't do it.
Put the knife away, Lilli.
Be a good girl and do what you're told.
Lilli was close to tears. She'd only just learned not to always do what she's told. And now it was supposed to be all wrong? While the others were talking to her, another voice kept getting louder. A voice that told her, continue. Continue.
Don't do it.
I guess the idea is that the narrator might be the psychotic tendencies, the Harvey in her mind, effectively. Alright, so let's see what happens when we set aside the knife.
Others were right. Lilli was apparently sick. She wasn't capable of deciding what was right or wrong. So she set the knife aside and began her therapy. Dr. Marcel had won. Maybe this wasn't the happy end you were expecting, but the moral of the story is you must always do what you're told. Always. Without exception. The end.
So undoubtedly that's like the worst ending in my book. Which it almost feels like there should have been... That should have been the ending that you were given first, and then there should have been a button here, right now, at the beginning of the credits, that said rewind or pick a different ending.
It seems like you need to be solaced, telling from the scratch.
But yeah, you still get him flying over the moon, even in that ending. Alright, so then we look at this, and hopefully this will be all we have to do is get the contradict ending.
Have you thinking? Don't you want, or do you? Really? Oh.
Because
How can I?
if the contradict doesn't give us the achievement, then I would just have to go back and get the kill ending again. We'll go ahead and skip all this dialogue as we're trying to speed run. It is a little bit too much dialogue right at the ending, because you have this scene and then you have another whole dialogue conversation immediately after this.
I knew the other, but not with a shredding you. But the you don't use it. Oh, this
I still really have no idea what the contradictions are going to be, though. Like, there's a contradiction in them being tied up
Doctor's right, Lilli.
in
Just imagining
the
put the knife away. The game is over.
insane asylum walls.
Finally, you see the truth. All the reasons that in the middle of
But the
night,
Edna and Lilli carved into the tree might be a contradiction.
I'll hypnotize you.
That's about the only thing I can think of.
Be a good
Lilli, she'd only, and now while the other avoid continue.
Don't do
Put the knife.
So let's see what the contradictions are.
Continue.
You click it once and it just says continue and don't do it. And then you have to actually click forward
do it, don't do it.
to move the dialogue forward, which is weird.
what you're told.
Stop.
Continue.
And she says something different this time.
Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Put the knife away.
Do what you're told.
And it feels like, well, all it's going to really, it's going to spin it so Edna says don't, and he says do what you told.
Continue.
Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Put the knife away.
But you would have to get him to not say put the knife away.
What you're told.
See, and it just feels like it's doing the same ending over and over again, and that's weird. Like, why not just have this be one ending? Click it once.
Very good, Lilli. Let him have it.
That goes for everyone! You've just been bossing me around this whole time! Lilli do this, Lilli do that, but get this! I'm not your lapdog! And you, Doc, if you want to hypnotize me, you'll have to learn how to walk first! Because that's what I'm gonna do now! Your therapy is garbage! Why don't you worry about yourself, Grandpa?
Lilli kept wailing until she was hoarse. Finally, exhausted yet relieved, she started heading back. For the first time in her life, she was doing what she herself thought was right. Maybe this wasn't the happy end you were expecting, but the moral of the story...
And you shut up too! There's no moral here! Got it? The end!
Yeah, so that by far is the best ending. And I really did not expect Lilli to have any voiced lines other than just and ums. Which that does create an odd situation if they were ever to bring back Lilli as a character. Because now you've had a voice actor that really only did 4 or 5 lines of dialogue, but it has been established as the voice of Lilli. So, you would have to kind of bring her back. Like, it'd be fairly easy to voice match the ers and ums, which I assume were also... I assume it's the same voice actress that did the ers and ums that said the last lines of dialogues.
And now you come crying to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So killing him is the narrator / Harvey telling you to kill him. Not killing him is Edna Garrett and the doctor telling him not to kill him. And telling them all off and still not killing him, but not accepting the therapy is the contradiction in that's the good ending. Arguably, it might have been better to simply have the contradiction ending anyways. And so we'll have the audio play a little bit loud again in my ears. As we look at the credits, though, you can see it's not just like one person that worked on it. There's a whole team here, and it might be a case that there's really just one person though in charge of backgrounds, objects, and cutscenes, and one person in charge of character designs, and so maybe there's not really a collaborative effort as much as there might have been. There is definitely a case where you can have 20 people working under you, but the person, the director, the producer, the leader is making all the decisions and everybody's just following orders otherwise. If it really is just Renee and Pokey that have all the creative input and nobody is free to give feedback or criticism there, that might explain why a game like this feels like it could have been a lot better with the amount of team they had working on it. The other explanation that I would totally believe is that this was just incredibly rushed out.
I can't stand to watch children bleed.
Now the intro music was like three minutes long, according to the developer commentary. So the credits at the end here might be 3 minutes long, also playing the same song. I really wish the developer commentary had just been voiced. That, if anything, it would make a lot of sense to have the voice actress of Lilli have a developer commentary, voice it in English, and then just slightly rewrite the commentary to become Lilli's commentary instead of actual developer commentary. Or you just have the Dr. Marcel read the developer's commentary in English. That would work too. Or Harvey's voice actor read the developer commentary in English. Yep. I suppose it is also worth pointing out that one of the reasons why Daedalic Entertainment succeeded on Steam having a lot of point-and-click adventure games is they got the ball rolling with a couple of successful ones like Deponia that got a lot of people to go back and buy some of their older games after the fact, but they also played in the bigger pond of Steam compared to trying to make a point-and-click adventure and putting it on something like itch.io or Good Old Games, where are arguably the best sellers of point-and-clicks on Good Old Games probably are very different than the best sellers of point-and-click games on Steam. But yeah, by going taking the risk of being a small fish in the big pond of Steam, that caught my attention, and I think it will catch most gamers' attention because very few gamers love the idea of... Very few gamers want to jump between different platforms, and Steam tends to be the biggest platform and thus the one to pick. There are definitely some special people that love just old games and stick to good old games, or love itch.io and stay at itch.io. I'm sure there's even a few people out there that love the Epic Game Store and are heavily trying to build a library there. We're slowly getting through the special thanks, but the credits are moving fairly slow to match pace with the music, but the music's already looped once. So why didn't they just speed up how fast they show the credits? Video games are not held to any real limitation as far as how fast or how many names can be on the screen at once. I've seen credits have 3 columns wide, scrolling as fast as possible in about as small of a font as possible. Now in movies, yes, there is a union agreement as far as how long your name will show up and in what point font and how many names can be on screen at once, but I don't think even a German company that probably does have some German worker unions would specifically begrudge them to put twice as many names on the screen. We've gotten all the achievements for whatever that's worth. In retrospect, it would not have been worth getting all the achievements if you had seen the multiple endings. The multiple endings are worth it. There is definitely a major problem in that this game has 3 chapters and only 5 mini-games. The mini-games come out of nowhere. They could have been a third to half of the game in total, but they really aren't. But there is definitely a scenario here where you get rid of the mini games completely and just focus on more standard point and click game play. Overall, though, I think the biggest problem is that Harvey's New Eyes is just one of their earlier games, and it needed a rewrite and it needed a rethink. It needed to have a consistent theme, particularly now that we've seen the contradiction end, where Lilli has just a mental inability to express her anger in any way. It's getting bottled up. It might be that she's crazy and she's causing the accidents. It might be that the accidents were actually accidents. That kind of doesn't matter. The main focus needed to be Lilli's anger issues and it being bottled up, and then her finally being able to express that in a fairly healthy way at the end of the game. And once in a second pass you realize that should have been the through line, then every element should have connected to that through line. There shouldn't be a side quest to do something else, to play with sharp objects, for instance. That can be part of Lilli has to express her anger in a healthy way, but it needs to definitely thematically connect to that. On a literal interpretation of the events of the game, there's major problems there with Edna not really being real, and yet she being the title character, Harvey not really being real, and him being a title character. That's probably a post-production decision, but it's a very unfortunate decision, certainly. It should have just been called Harvey's New Eyes, and that would have made a lot of sense. All of the kids that were accidentally killed at the beginning of the game needed to either come back as ghosts or stay around for a little bit longer. You could cut the number of kids you actually killed, and you could have had a parallel where each kid that gets killed in an accident was also one of the demons and mental blocks. Merge those two concepts together, and that would make a lot more sense too. The kid that dies smoking, for instance, if there was a mental block that says no smoking, then that would have that should have been the point where you convince him to smoke and break the mental block yourself, instead of those two sections being separate. Well, there was no smoking, but there was don't play with fire, and those two sections are very separate. There really isn't a lot to say. I can say I'm happy that I've been able to make multiple hours of recordings without any stuttering or crashing, which hopefully means that my reinstall of my recording software and setup has worked, and so I'll no longer have that problem. It's hardly a case, though, that a point-and-click adventure game was going to push my CPU or GPU to its limits, so I may play the next game and see some stuttering or crashing. Hopefully not. But yeah, we're done here. I've said everything there is to say. Since the game is just so wordy and there's not a lot to really criticize, I mostly sat in silence or repeated myself on the second playthrough. And it is definitely a mistake to realize that there's like 4 hours of gameplay you have to play, even if you're trying to speedrun the game as fast as possible. Like, you really should have been able to speedrun this game in about an hour. That's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. I have a playlist tab on my YouTube page that has a playlist for every game I've ever covered. That would let you see the first Edna Harvey game, which arguably at this rate I should have gone back and watched my own series to remind myself of what happened in the first game. I definitely do feel like with the good ending that I like the way this game ended more than I did the first Edna and Harvey. But there are also plenty of other playlists of plenty of other games, lots of which are point-and-click adventure games. I would say check out I Have No Mouth, Yet I Must Scream. It is much more realistic graphics, but it's still kind of touching on the same mental ideas and aspects that this game touched on. And then finally, if you want to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below if I didn't mention that. And there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a gift card or game off my wish list if you would like to support me further, which that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.